Hi there. Throughout history, civilizations seeking fortunes and new lands have turned to the vast ocean. Ancient sea routes, like the revived Maritime Silk Road, have bridged continents across the seas. Greece, the cradle of Western civilization, has a strong seafaring history. Fast forward to modern times, China is quickly turning to the blue ocean for solutions to the world's biggest challenges, such as climate change and the rising sea levels, unprecedented security threats, refugee crises across the Mediterranean Sea, and conflicts over maritime territory. Today, in our special program, Dialogue with the World, I have the honor to be joined here by our Greek counterpart, co-host Theophanis Papantheonios from ERT Network and the Greek ambassador. But first of all, let me introduce my colleague next to me, Ambassador Chen Mingming, who is the former Chinese ambassador to Sweden and New Zealand.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very happy that I'm here in Beijing to make this dialogue about our countries, how we can improve our cooperation, and how the two countries, Greece and China, work together. And Greece, as you know, the Greeks understand that and recognize the friendship and the support of Chinese, because China was supporting Greece during the crisis. During the 8 years of crisis, Costco and other Chinese companies was investing in Greece. So this is recognized by the Greeks. That's why China is one of the most favored countries in Greece.
I think the feeling in China towards Greece is absolutely reciprocal. We Chinese hold the Greek civilization, the Greek people in great respect, and we view Greece as a pace setter in terms of building strong relations with China among the European countries. You mentioned what China did to assist Greece in the 2008 financial crisis, but for us, we think about the great help you gave to us. In 2011, when chaos broke out in Libya, and Greece, which was facing Libya across the Mediterranean, became the first stop for Chinese, for several dozen thousand Chinese workers evacuated from Libya, and you help us in that. So the feeling is absolutely mutual, in my view.
Mr. Ambassador, and this is a question for both ambassadors, as you probably know better, Greek maritime is one of the leading sectors worldwide. Greece plays an important role in maritime worldwide, and the Port of Piraeus is a gate, south gate to Europe for China. Tell us a little bit the strategic importance for China because of this gate, because it changed the sea routes, as you know better, because you were an ambassador in Sweden. Years ago, the gate to Europe for China was in the north ports. Now it changed, and that gained for China time and money.
And the follow-up question on the basis of what Fanny said is, Ambassador Chen, the European Union strengthens its unity and cohesiveness through consensus building. Now, with regard to China's enormous investments, such as one from Costco in Piraeus, the important Mediterranean port, do you think the European Union faces internal debates as to how to look at the importance of Belt and Road Initiative, with Greece being the gateway to continental Europe?
I think generally I do not see vocal opposition to the Belt and Road Initiative among the European member states. And I think the position taken by Greece has played an important role. As you have said, Greece is strategically located at the Mediterranean. It's the southern gate of Europe towards the outside world. And I think it's closest to China among European countries. So I think this maritime link established by Greece between China and Europe is very important. I see no reason why anyone in the EU should oppose Greece playing a pioneering role in building strong ties with China.
Ambassador Rokanas, how does Greece position itself in the regional bloc of a European Union? As we were talking about the importance of consensus building, monetary union, fiscal union, and political union, the third turns out to be the most difficult to facilitate the political process. In this context, Mr. Ambassador, do you think Greek increasingly becomes a maverick, and you can be a little bit different from the rest of the regional bloc, European Union?
Thank you very much for hosting me also in this show. Thanks to my colleague also for his comments, which are benevolent and absolutely right. I'm 100% on the same page with what he says. Well, first of all, you should know that Greece is, as you said, it's considered to be the cradle of Western civilization. It's also the cradle of Europe. It has been the creator of the name Euro and the name Europe. We have defined Europe since the times of Aristotle and the wars with Persia, and it remains so today. Greece is one of the most pro-European and European-minded countries, not just in Europe but in the whole planet. And that goes also for the Greek public. The reasons are not just psychological; they are also practical, because we see that belonging to a bigger market, which we call, of course, single market, makes us stronger. European solidarity, which sometimes is stronger and sometimes is less strong, but European solidarity is there, and European help and European, let's say, projects make Greece stronger and make Greece more, let's say, efficient also in the future. What I would say, I wouldn't characterize my country as a maverick. Greece is very, let's say, special in both its position, in its history, in its past, and also in its future. But European Union is precisely a union of different countries, with different religions, with different ethnic groups, with lots of minorities and lots of civilizational, cultural, and other differences. And the whole, let's say, philosophy behind European integration is, let's say, the philosophy of pluralism, true pluralism that accepts difference, and as in the Confucian philosophy, seeks harmony rather than uniformity. So the power of Europe also is due to the fact that it's consisted of countries with different systems, with different economies, with different mindsets, philosophies, cultures, languages. That is one of the powers of Europe. So Greece plays its role. We are very active in that. We think we have contributed a lot to Europe's past, but also to Europe's future. We are now discussing about Europe's future, very, very much indeed. We are very active in that, not only us, but also all of the southern European member states. We have created also a summit to discuss things like that, but not only with them, but with all our European partners. So in one word, we're very pro-European minded. We're more than that, we're the cradle of Europe.
What the ambassador of Greece said did give an official statement, a constructive one, about the unity and integration of the European Union. However, Ambassador Chen, what do you think of the impact of the refugee crisis that may have served to divide the European Union, with some of the countries openly saying no, and they have set up the barriers to prevent refugees from entering into their territory due to the impact of populism and the rise of far-right movement?
I think my dear colleague, Mr. Ambassador, is perhaps in a better position to answer this question. Of course, it's a very challenging issue for Europe, but in some ways, it also unifies Europe in trying to come up with a unified approach to this very tough issue. We in China really watch with admiration the great efforts you have gone into to really host several 100,000 refugees from the Middle East. You have made sacrifices, and we admire your efforts.
Greece differs sometimes in Europe and plays a different role, for China especially, takes different position from its allies. So China is an issue that Greece is taking a different position in order to support China. How Greece can keep this balance between, as a member of the European Union, and having a close relation with China?
Well, let me first say a couple of words about the migration crisis, because it's been one of the major characteristics of our globalization process today. Migration is not an issue of Greece, it's a global issue. We have huge migration waves and, of course, refugee waves. They go together in many countries of the world. They have been particularly important in our region of southeastern Mediterranean, but not only that. Italy has also received a lot of pressure.
Turkey is no exception in accepting such a big number of refugees.
There were millions and hundreds of thousands of refugees in Jordan, in Lebanon, in other countries that have to be thanked and also helped in their effort to keep these people safe and secure. What we did, and I want to bring this up, is first of all, this crisis was just a few years back, it was very, very important crisis, and it fell on our very, very earnest efforts to combat the dire economic crisis that we were facing. So one crisis actually worsened the other. But we gave a very different answer than many other countries. We gave a humanitarian answer. We were pulling people out of the water. We were doing what we thought about, according to our culture and our civilization, was the right thing to do. We gave these people a new future. We gave them hope. We gave them a new light. They were looking for light in Europe. We opened our doors to them. We saved them, and we let them also decide where to go. Others, instead, have chosen to close their borders and to actually isolate them from where they wanted to go. Many thousands ended up in Western Europe, many in Germany. If you want my personal opinion, I think Angela Merkel behaved as a true European, accepting those refugees. I think Germany is a big country and has behaved in the right way. If there is political cost to that, that's the political cost that big leaders have to take. But they had the right position, and the right position is in favor of life, in favor of saving these people. This is what the position of principle that Greece took, and I think we gave an example to other nations. And that was one thing I wanted to say. There are already people still remaining in Greece. We have fought also for a European solution, a solidarity solution for the refugee problem. We are advancing in this respect. But, of course, refugees have been also a European issue. But for countries that closed borders. We did not close borders. You see, we have a different...
Let's go to our issue.
You are being challenged by two moderators here. We have tons of questions about... Yes.
How Greece can keep a balance in the European Union,
yes, I have to answer the other one,
as a member of the European Union,
yes.
Different policies and keeping a balance with China as a close ally.
Yes, that's the second thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say is that our close relationship with China, which is a relationship which is very basic because it's based on a spontaneous and very deep sense of respect. It's automatic respect towards a great civilization like the Chinese, and vice versa. This relationship, which is very special again, it's not like any other relationship. Our relationship is very unique, which is one of the good relationships we have with other countries. Does not contradict, but complements, on the contrary, all the relations that we have with other countries, including European ones. In fact, what I think is that our relationship, good relationship with China, actually helps European-Chinese relations instead of undermining them, as some people might want to think. I think that our constructive relationship with China is a big economic power that contributes a lot to European and to world GDP. Is very beneficial for political and economic relations in Europe and should not be viewed as antagonistic to them.
Greece is criticized by other European countries by playing with China, because they say, these countries in Europe, in the European Union, that China prefers to have a one-on-one relation with some countries, including Greece, in terms of investment, in terms of other policies. So what is your take on this?
I challenge the view that somehow the China issue has become a divisive one. among European countries. It gives me the impression somehow that some EU members do not like the idea of Greece going too far in growing ties with China. But from my perspective, I think across the board, I believe that all members of the European Union are for a strong relationship with China. I myself served as Chinese ambassador to Sweden for several years, back 10 years ago. And I've been following European relations with China very intensively. I can think of not a single country within or outside EU that is opposed to building strong ties with China. Tell me one. I think all are for building strong ties with China. But I think Greece is doing particularly well. It is really the pace setter. It takes the lead. I think that is important. It's leading in the right direction. And I believe that all the other members of the EU should follow Greece's example in building strong political, economic, cultural ties with China. And that is really mutually beneficial.
But I'm afraid that the rest of the European Union may not see eye to eye with Greece on the issue of Port Piraeus. Because with a journal in the United States building up the theory of conspiracy like that tribe, and with the heavy investment of China in the lease of the Greek port, it seems that Greece is being held hostage by the Belt and Road Initiative. What do you think of the implications by the Western media?
I think the whole issue has been exaggerated up beyond proportions. This is a this is a business decision made independently, in my understanding, by Greece with China. It does not conflict, it does not contravene any European rules on port upgrading. And as proof of success story, its cargo handling capacity has increased by 7%, 7 times. Europe has benefited from it, particularly the southern and the central and eastern European countries have a better access to Chinese goods at lower costs because of the upgrading of this port.
Now, it seems with regard to the reform of WTO, because of the differences between the United States and China over the future of WTO, now, European Union that stands for multilateralism seems to echo much of the same concern with China on the issue of WTO. Mr. Ambassador, do you think the Greeks also call for reform of the WTO so that this multilateral agency will help sustain the process of globalization?
First of all, I would like to say a couple of words about the port myself. I agree with to have some dialogue. I agree with the Chinese ambassador, my colleague, about what he said. I think, first of all, the ports of Piraeus and maritime cooperation between China and Greece predates the Belt and Road. We started this in 2006. And I think because we were very successful in collaborating on the port of Piraeus, China has decided also to have strategy like the Belt and Road by the wise decision of your president. And now it's a collaboration, it's a network of countries that produce this and co-develop this big project. It's not a Chinese thing, it belongs to us too. So I would say Piraeus is a very, very successful project.
Can you explain us, to give us to the audience more elements of this cooperation, because it is a success story, this COSCO project?
Yes, I wanted to say the COSCO project and the Piraeus project is an emblematic project for Greece. Your Prime Minister and my Prime Minister have called it the head of the dragon. That is, we expect other investments to follow, but this has been very fundamental for Greece. It gave also the right signal to foreign businesses to come and have business with my country, since a very big company, the biggest maritime company in the world, has decided to take such a big investment with a great future also in Port Piraeus. So it's an absolute success story. For those who speak against the BRI, I have to say that both in terms of labor, let's say legislation, and labor conditions, from those who see it from an efficiency point of view, 7-fold, Piraeus moved from 98 position to 38 position. It's going to become soon the first port in the Mediterranean. it's only beneficial. And it benefits, it creates more jobs, it creates a lot of dynamic for the Greek economy. So it is a success story, and it's a success story also within the BRI. So I wanted to also to state my opinion on that, because this is what we should all say about it. So Greece and China are two maritime powers. Greece, controls the most number of ships in the world. China is number 3, if I'm not wrong. And we have common interests in this respect. Not about ports, about transports in general, about maritime transports in particular. Not just with China. We have common interests with all maritime powers. United States being one of the biggest and most important ones. With United States, as you know, we are allies and friends. And millions of Greeks live in the United States. But we are also partners in this. So this partnership with China is very successful. And it does not antagonize, I repeat, any other partnership that we have. It's a win-win for everybody, because collaboration is a win-win. And this is the philosophy of connectivity behind the BRI. The Belt and Road, the philosophy of connectivity, is a win-win philosophy. Otherwise, it will not even work. Now, about the WTO, you're right. Of course, as you know, it's a trade issue, and for trade issues, it's the European Union which is predominantly, let's say, responsible in our case, because we're members of the Eurozone and members of the European Union. We have fought hard to become and to remain members of the European Union and the Eurozone. And I would like to say that, yes, we are very much in favor of a free and rules-based international trade system based on the WTO, and based on the WTO rules. But of course, like every other, system, WTO will eventually be reformed somehow to, of course, adapt to the new conditions that are being created in international trade, in international economy. Under globalization, international economy is changing rapidly. So it's not the only thing that will change. But our positions in this respect, they are represented by European Union. But what I wanted to say is that we are very much in principle favoring multilateralism also in international trade. I told you we are a maritime power. No maritime power is against international trade. So the global pie is increased by a free trade
There's no question,
system.
Mr. Ambassador, there's no question about your history and the current status of being a maritime power. But it is a big question for China, which was a continental power until a few years ago, when China was transformed successfully into also a maritime power. But in this particular area, we drew a lot of scrutiny and fire from the other side of the Pacific Ocean. They accused us of being assertive in the expansion of maritime stakes. So, Ambassador, the next question is very much about the future of the European Union. My Greek counterpart has somehow indicated quietly that the different positions that the Greek authorities adopted on the issue of the port has somehow distanced Athens from the political heartland in Brussels. Therefore, the question about the future on unity, cohesiveness of this regional integration, European Union, with the impact of a Brexit, and also with Greeks taking a different decision, although the ambassador says over and over this is a win-win situation. But do you think the European Union is likely to be eroded due to China's business presence in Greece, one of the strongholds of China's expansion in Europe?
Obviously, Brexit will be a very tough issue for Europe's future, but not China's relations with China. Let's don't think that's a starter for this discussion. China has not been really a divisive issue within the issue. Perhaps there is some debate about how far Europe should go in terms of building strong ties with China, but not about reversing the course. I see absolutely no sign of that. And I think all responsible politicians within the EU realize the importance of building strong political, economic, and cultural ties with China for the future of Europe. And I hope that they will move in this direction. And I'm quite optimistic about the future growth of China-European relations. I absolutely see no danger or crisis ahead. No. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Europe is essential to China, and China is essential to Europe.
Different positions that the Greek authorities adopted on the issue of the port has somehow distanced Athens from the political heartland in Brussels. Balkanization is a very dangerous phenomenon in international politics.
We play a role of unifying this region and bringing it to Europe.
They do want China to play a more active role in politics, to take positions in the Middle East. And
I would not describe China as a global power. Middle East is just too far away from China.